Hello everyone, this is round 2 of ChessDojo October Classical Tournament. I am playing against 1700 rated opponent Chloe 39 and we have played a 45-minute game with 30 seconds increment. This game was very specific because my opponent had quite a few time problems with his time management. And here I want to talk a bit about preparation and time management exactly. These are two vital skills that everybody needs to master, provided that you want to improve in chess. If you followed Hans Niemann controversy with Magnus Carlsen and all those things about cheating, and who didn't these days, you maybe have heard of Dr. Ken Regan, who is FIDE expert for cheating. And in one of his interviews, he was trying to determine if Hans Niemann had cheated, and he talked about players' performances. And one interesting thing about time management that he statistically had found out with his research is that when players have only about basically when players are in a time crisis, so when they only have minutes in the clock, like 3 or 5 minutes, so in extreme time pressure, that even the best players play around 700 points below their rating. What that means is that, for example, 2700 players like Hikaru Nakamura or Aronian, or take your favorite player, even Magnus Carlsen, they start to play around only 2000 level. And at that level, players miss like complicated tactics and they lose the game. And now if you imagine that, for example, we play at 1800 level or 2000 level, and when you end up with 3 minutes on the clock, you start to play like 1200 player, and that's basically the rating in which you miss basic tactics and just hang whole pieces like knights and rooks. And this is what actually happens all the time, especially in Blitz. Okay, and that's why time management is really important, and we'll go here with that in this game. Okay, for this game, my opponent played an interesting close Sicilian with g3, for which I actually prepared, as I looked at his game on chess.com, and he really likes to play this g3 variant. So I spent some time and looked at this variant with c5 e6, which I like to play, and I noticed that on his g3, Stockfish prefers to play, and I also looked at, of course, at Opening Explorer book, likes to play g6 with fianchetto this bishop at g7, and basically this is equal and dynamic position for black, and I was looking a bit like a half an hour in his games and these, let's say, structures, and I found they are very playable, and I generally like when I have lots of active play, especially as black. So in this game he decided to go with the knight to e7, which is fine a move. He also often played in his games this way, with knight to f3 and castling, and this is the structure he likes to play. In the game he went to similar structure, just playing knight e7, castle, and I play this way, and basically he will push his, he pushed his f4 pawn, preparing kingside attack, everything is fine, he played opening well, and so have I with my black pieces. Usually you don't want to play both of these moves because dark squares are weaker here, but in this opening at least Stockfish agrees that it's good for black and equal, so I decided to go with it. At this point it's actually minus 0.4 for black. Black is slightly better. So what's the deal about this position? White has basically exposed his king a bit with his kingside attack, This is risky attack, of course, but it's also risky for black. The downside of f4 move is, of course, when you move f pawn, your king is exposed. So, for example, in the future, if I'm able to somehow place my bishops, say here, his king is very exposed, and black has another idea, and that one is to attack, open up the center, so we can attack the king, or if possible attack on the queen side. Basically, we want eventually to have the rook to attack on exposed king. White's plan is relatively simple. He wants to push the pawns, keep the pieces behind, and just pile up on the king and checkmate me. When I was watching through the games, I noticed here that Stockfish really likes this plan, and it makes sense. So I went immediately with rook to b8. It may not be the best move, but it soon is. And my opponent blocked it with a4, which is a reasonable idea. It's a good move, but then it also has a downside. I have this access now to b4 and d6. I went with opening up the center. It's a bit risky move, but it works. And I also saw this in my prep in one of similar position, maybe not exactly this one. The deal here is that I don't mind, say, playing this way or playing this way. The center is open, and I'll attack his king. And the critical line is, of course, if he, as he did play in the game, it looks very desirable for white because he blocks my bishop. And I would never play here d5 if I hadn't known that f6 is actually good. And I was looking at one of the games which ended up with equal but dynamic position, in which we had f6. And basically here he has to take, otherwise he will lose the pawn. Nobody can defend. You see, nobody can defend this. There's no way to defend the pawn. So he has to capture. And after I capture, this position is dynamic, and I think, yeah, black is slightly better. There's lots of play. Of course, I weakened my king with f-file. So by playing f6, I have weakened my king a bit, but as from my prep, I know that my position is stable and it's quite playable. And basically, this is the end of my preparation here. So I knew the position to about 11th move. And if you take note on time, we have 30-second increment. Basically, I have 45 minutes as it's starting, and my opponent spent 5 minutes from his time. And there is more to it. What's really important is that I know here what I plan to do. And it turns out that even my opponent plays white pieces, and like this opening, he actually didn't know what to do in the position, didn't have idea about plans. And that's quite puzzling, as if you are already playing white and you want to improve, you should really know at least basic plans about your position. So I'll show you next two moves. He played h3 here, which is, okay, let's say, reasonable move to fight his king. And I went with queen to b6. This is not the best move. I basically wanted to develop and to pressure him a bit so he cannot develop his bishop. So it's a way to cause problems, but it does. Forces his king to go where he wants. I considered this, and I thought it's a good move anyway. And it's not good. But it's not the best move, and there's a specific reason for it. And here, what's interesting, in this position, he spent a full 5 or 6 minutes just to play king to h2. Now, it was clear to me that here he basically didn't know what to do, and he said as much after the game. Now, if you take a look at the white position, you can easily here conclude that this check doesn't do anything at the moment. He can just move the king anyway. And white basically has one problem, and that's his weak queen side, which is under attack, and he wants to develop his bishop. For example, if he tries to develop his bishop now, I can maybe take the pawn, and he doesn't like that. How does he solve this? Now note that he may even sacrifice the pawn and just counterattack. This is safe. And now I'm not sure if I lose my queen. Now this is very dangerous. Queen might be captured. So the pawn is not really under threat, maybe. That should be analyzed. And but there is just a simple way to develop. For example, it didn't take me much to see it. He could have just, for example, play b3 here, and you may think that he has weakened this knight or a rook, but I cannot really pressure him. If I double attack, he can just support and then follow with, let's say, rook to b1 and exchange the bishops. And basically he solves his opening problems this way, and he can eliminate my bishop and the game continues. So it's a relatively simple plan, which shouldn't take him more than, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. But he spent like 5 minutes and moved his king, which is a good move, but he spent lots of time. And I marked here the moves which I had in mind. So in this position, basically I knew what I was going to play for the next 7 or 8 moves, because it's very simple. I obviously want to develop my knights and move my bishop away, so this knight wants to go here. If the knight is out, it doesn't mean it's developed. This knight is very passive here, so he really wants to go out, and it needs to go out quickly before he can play g5. Bishop wants to go here, basically. Rook is fine, but this bishop needs to go back, so the rook has scope. Bishop is vulnerable here. Queen has to also move. It doesn't belong here, but for the moment it's good. And I want to move my rook to the central square, so I'll push the pawns. So I have like 6, 7 or 8 moves. I'll move the king in the corner. And I don't have to waste much time, so he should have known something about his plans here. Maybe something like this. And should have played it quickly, so that he just doesn't wait all his time. So I went with the knight move here. As my plan, he played this one move, which is good. And here I made a mistake. I went here, which is logical move, but it actually loses all the advantage. Afterwards, I was going to continue, like I said, with these moves, for example. Okay, what's the problem with knight to d4? And this is maybe the most I learned from this game. If you take a look at the position, you can notice that his king is weak, and what I should do is, of course, attack it with my pieces. In that sense, I don't want to exchange pieces. That's one thing. The other thing is here, if you observe pieces again, what's good or bad about this position? You can notice that bishops are actually not good. This one is pretty awful. This one is not bad, but it's actually not doing too much. It creates some pressure here. Also, his bishops are not great, and my knights are definitely better than his. For example, this knight is quite useless. This one knight is also useless. He can go here, but I'll just push him back. In that case, you can notice that if you remove the knights, then basically I don't have any advantage here. I have 2 bad bishops. Like he has 1 solid bishop, let's say, but he also has 1. And that's an equal position. Just for that reason, I should have noted that I should play here knight to h5, which is an excellent move, which then creates problems for his king, and the game continues. I would maybe go this way. Let's go this way. And pressure the king. For example, this knight can stay out of the game as well as this rook, so the king is open and I could maybe win this. But I actually didn't see this in the game. I didn't understand the position, and I was happy to centralize my knight, thinking it's good. But then he simply trades his bad knight for my good knight. And when I captured back, I missed this move, very strong move that he played, and that's knight to e2, and now he wants to exchange the second pair of knights. And I realized what I did here, so basically I lose my advantage. I was considering going back, but maybe I should have done it, but I think this is equal position. He can just play this way, and his knight is not worse than mine. this knight here after, for example, this move is quite useless. I just went with my plan and I played quickly, so I played bishop to d2. Now on the topic of time management, I'll just show you that after king to h2, I played instantly and he spent 7 more minutes on this move, which really shouldn't take him that long. And after this move, he spent more time, and in this position, he had only 18 minutes against my 40 minutes. Okay, so I went back as I planned. He spent more time, he's now on 12 minutes, and it's not even the best move. It's better to make pressure on the pawn. I centralized my queen because I couldn't do anything with this pawn. Now I have this pin, and I'll show you one thing here also. In this position, for example, even if he had ignored the pawn, I cannot take it. For example, he could just retreat his king, and I cannot win the pawn because he can just pin me and I'll lose the bishop. So I don't think, no, except in the beginning, this pawn was never under attack, but he was, I think, trying to defend it, for example, with this move. So he maybe wasted some effort there. Anyway, I centralized my queen. Now I want to attack the king, but I lost already most of my advantage because my bishops are not now that strong. Without knights, I cannot create threats. He went back, and I insta-played bishop to c6. As I wanted to play the whole game, that was my idea to develop bishop, but after I played, I realized soon that it's basically a mistake because I really want to play e5. But he has this move, and now I cannot take, it's protected, but had I left the bishop here, I could have captured it. So that's why the bishop was maybe better here, and I could have played something like this or this. But I missed that, so I went to central against his queen. Okay, at this point, I had large time advantage, and I didn't see how to win. I was considering this move, but it's not really winning. Check winning. Okay, the idea that I missed is actually g5 here is the move that opens up the position, but this is hard move to make, of course. So I just slided the king away and waiting for his mistake. Now, that's the one thing when you have a huge time advantage, you can just play simple moves like, say, h6 or b6 and just give the move to your opponent and wait for him to make a bigger mistake. So by playing king to h1, I just expected him to make a bigger mistake on which I can jump and win. And he actually made a mistake. He played rook to f2, but it's not a huge one. He weakened his back rank here. And now I should either push one of these pawns. g5 might be the best, but I was not sure what's the best, and I just played a waiting move with the idea to double the rooks. And of course, he now spent more time and developed his bishop. I played quickly rook to f1, and now he spent even more time playing, centralizing his rook. Now this move makes sense, of course, it's logical, but stuck with villain against, and it's a mistake. And at this point, he only had 3 minutes to play. And now I decided to push with d-pawn. I think there are several moves here which are good, so it doesn't really matter. On this push, he went back, spent a bit of time. So I pushed the other pawn, and he tried to double pawns here. He has no time, he played this quickly. And here I exchanged, and now I won the pawn. So thanks to his time management, I managed to win the pawn. And here he had to again play quickly, and he pushed pawn to g5. That's another mistake. He missed this check, and now he loses the pawn. And take note that when you are defending, you especially don't want to move pawns. You want to stay solid and move pieces if possible. And you really don't want to move king pawns. So this move is awful from many aspects. Just don't move your king pawns. You leave lots of space and expose your king. Here the pawn immediately falls. Now he missed this check, but I'm not sure even if he can do anything. He could maybe defend better with this, but it doesn't help too much. So okay, I gave another check, he has to go back. Now I have this check, and here I calculated, here I have time. You see, I now have 27 minutes. So I spent like 15 minutes in the late game where he had like only 2 minutes. I picked up this pawn, now I have more checks. And here, this is his last blunder. Now after this check, he loses his bishop and it's checkmate. So that's the end of the game. One other thing that I want to tell you about time management, which is really important, is that if you go to the beginning of the game and let's say take a look at this position, there are like 20 good moves here for black. Black can play anything and it's playable. So you don't have to think here, just need to know that play something decent and it goes. Same goes for here. You don't need much time to find good move. In the middle game, let's say here, there are probably like 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say 5, 6 good moves for black. So you don't need to spend too much time. Of course, it's better if you find the better move, but don't waste too much time. And if you go to the end game, for example, in some of these positions, there is maybe only one good move for black, for either black or white. Basically, black is a bit better, but there is like only one good move, and it may be bishop to here to include other rook. Playing something else is big mistake. And the more you go to the end game, it's harder and harder to find moves, and that's why you need more and more time. So it's imperative to play quickly in the opening, moderately quickly in the middle game, so that you have lots of time in the end game where you need to think a lot. Here you have to calculate a lot, all of these exchanges. For example, he didn't calculate because he didn't have time, and now he lost the pawn. So maybe think about time management in that way and keep the most of your time for end games. Okay, I guess that's what I mostly wanted to say about this game. I hope you liked it, and I'll be recording another one soon as I finished one more. And then I'll be talking a bit about my first OTB experience, and I had the pleasure to play OTB tournament, and I must say I had quite a lot of fun. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.